Okay, so last week we've spent a week and a half learning how to name and write ionic formulas using human relations. In ionic formulas, what you have is a metal, or what we think of as a guy, and a non-metal, and what we think of as a girl. And it's a bit of a toxic relationship where the guy gives her French fries and gives her gifts and gives her milkshakes, and he is a very, very giving guy, and the girl just takes. In reality, in chemistry, we're talking about a metal that gives electrons and a non-metal that takes electrons. So, when you name those things, you need to crisscross, you need to look at charges, that kind of stuff. Roman numerals play a part. So now we're going to move away from that and learn a brand new way of naming and writing these formulas. Okay, the hardest thing about these is once you see them all together, you're going to have a tendency to try to mix the rules. You can't. When you're looking at these formulas, the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, is this a metal, non-metal situation, or in the case of molecular compounds, is this a non-metal, non-metal? With non-metal nonmetals, think of them as a couple of friends. They want to share everything. This is not a give or take relationship. Two girls that are like sisters. They share everything. If they can't afford for each of them to have French fries, one of them will sit there and share the French fries and one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. They share their electrons. They don't give or take electrons. Okay, so I'm going to teach you. First of all, I'm going to review everything with you for your notes, so you have something to write down. And then I am going to teach you how to write the formulas and the names for these things. And then we have a long list of things, a laundry list of things that I need you to do in order to practice this. All right? Here we go. Okay, the poster child for these types of formulas is one of the most dangerous chemical known to man. We call it dihydrogen monoxide. More people die from dihydrogen monoxide poisoning than from any other type of chemical. And what amuses me is the fact that every year some middle schooler gets in front of Walmart and starts a petition for the abolishment, for making the government restrict the use of dihydrogen monoxide. And because people either have never been taught first-year chemistry or forgot their first-year chemistry, they think, wow, this is a very dangerous chemical. Dihydrogen monoxide, maybe we should ban it. Well, as you're going to find out today, dihydrogen monoxide is the official way of referring to water, H2O. Okay? When you say a dihydrogen monoxide, it sounds kind of ominous. And when you also give the statistics for how many people die of dihydrogen monoxide inhalation, then people get really apprehensive. Think about it. What does it mean to inhale dihydrogen monoxide? You drown. More people die of drownings every year than die of exposure to any other chemical. Actually, dying from a chemical exposure is very, very rare. Dying from drowning is very, very real. So when you throw around those statistics, people go, oh my gosh, we must ban dihydrogen monoxide. I don't know what it is, but it sounds ominous. All right, here we go. What are ionic compounds again? Remember, they are compounds made up of ions, not atoms. You have a metal and a non-metal. What do they have to do in order to become ionic compounds? Well, as you can see there, a metal has to give away its electron to its non-metal neighbor. So The nonmetal goes, hey, give me that electron. Sodium goes, sure. So there is a transfer of electrons. A transfer of electrons. All right. That's when you use Roman numerals. That's when you use crisscross. That's when you take in consideration charges. Now, molecular compounds are completely different. Instead of it being a metal-nonmetal, it's two nonmetals sharing electrons. Sharing electrons. So two nonmetals come together. They're both kind of needy. They need electrons, so when they come together, they will share electrons. Share electrons. And of course, the very dangerous chemical dihydrogen monoxide is a good example of this. So, how do you name these things? Well, prefixes. You know, a prefix, prefixes are usually letters that mean something. Okay? I'm so tired, I can't even think of it. All I can think of is post-diluvial. It's the only thing that comes to mind. Post means afterwards, diluvial means flood, so post-diluvial. The post-diluvial world. That would be, can anyone think of a word that has a prefix? I can't even think. Besides prefix? Yes? Post-apocalyptic. So those are all the stories that you might see, movies about what's the world like after a nuclear war. Yes? Prehistoric. Thank you. Somebody's brain is working today, not mine. Prehistoric would be before man. Before man. All right, so these are the prefixes you need to be familiar with. Jot them down, and what I'll do is I'll give you ways of remembering. Maybe, just maybe, you can use these ways to remember. These prefixes are the key to everything. If you don't memorize these prefixes, then you're going to have a hard time writing these simple formulas and names. When I think of mono, I think of the one disease I do not want. I had a good friend who had mono his junior year. He was in and out of school because there were times in which he was so exhausted he couldn't come to school. So from a tender age, I realized I am not going to drink after other people because that's one of the ways in which you can get the virus. Mononucleosis is a virus that integrates into your DNA and it goes into remission, and then you can feel great for 6 years, and then all of a sudden your DNA is making more viruses and you go back into the disease. You never get rid of mono, and there is no cure for it. You stick with mono all your life. Mono is the one disease you don't want. Dinosaurs. You know the difference between reptiles and dinosaurs, right? Dinosaurs have two nosours that are hanging from their necks. Two nosours. You've seen dinosaurs with the nosours, haven't you? Liar. I've never seen any dinosaur with a nosours. I don't know what a nosour is, but I use it to remember that the number is 2. Okay? I think the prefix dino may be, so dinosaur maybe, the prefix is dino, not die. But I use it to remember. Dinosaurs is animals with 2 nosours. 2. 2 is the number you need to remember. How about Land Before Time? Land Before Time had this little, Sarah, the little triceratops. So Sarah eventually is going to have her horns come in. You know, when she's a teenager, the horns will come in, and she'll have how many horns? 3. Yeah, 3. 3 horns. Okay, maybe, have you ever played the game Tetris? It started out in the 80s. It was an early video game, but it was a 4-sided object that you had to stack up down on the bottom. And, I mean, they come fast and furious, so you have to make some big decisions. So 4-sided Tetris. Our military building has how many sides? Our U.S. military office has 5 sides. It is called the Pentagon. Okay, when we were playing around with our hands-on atom activity, we were using little hex nuts. They were 6-sided little nuts, so they're called hex nuts. Septa kind of reminds me of 7. Septa, 7. Hex and 6 don't remind me of that. Maybe because they both have X. Maybe you can use that. Hex, 6, I don't know. Octa reminds me of octopus. And octopi have how many legs? 8. Nana kind of reminds me of the number 9. And deca, how many years does it take for you to learn this? And maybe a decade. So a decade is how many years? 10. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this. First example, I want you to notice one very important thing. The first element, which is a non-metal, something on the right side of the zigzag line, the first element's name is not changed. So if there is a similarity between ionic compounds and molecular compounds, it's the way that we change their names. So the first element, its name is not changed, just like in ionic. The second element has to be changed to IDE. IDE. So, now, what's the biggest difference? Instead of using charges and Roman numerals and stuff like that, you just pay attention to the prefix. Okay? Notice that carbon does not have a prefix. That's because just like when we're writing formulas, you can always understand, one, you can keep it an imaginary one. So too is mono an imaginary prefix. So if you don't see a prefix, that's because it's there. And it's what? Mono. So mono means 1, carbon. So 1 carbon, di means 2, oxygen means, well, more like O. Carbon dioxide is CO2. Carbon dioxide is CO2. Easy peasy. All right, here we go. I need help with this one. Connor, di is what number? Hydrogen is what symbol? You can put the mono if you want. Won't hurt anything. Mono would mean what? Connor? 1. And oxygen is dihydrogen monoxide.
Oh, you don't put 1. Oh, that's slow. That's what we charge it for. I put the 2 in the front, and I thought, I ain't like you gotta put the.
All right.
What, man?
Jarius, di is what number?
2.
Phosphorus symbol. Nice. Penta number.
Oh, it's just 5.
Oxide symbol.
Oh. Oh.
Easy peasy.
So is it like when we did crisscross, the ones I understood saying I put it down?
No crisscross here. No
I mean,
Roman numerals.
Like, it's like if we put 1 down, we don't have to write down.
Yes, yes. Like when we, in ionic compounds, we didn't have to write the 1 down. Yep. Jackson. No prefix, which means how many?
3.
Mm,
Not on the first one.
none on the. Okay, so what is the symbol for nitrogen?
And
Okay, so you don't need a 1, so forget about that. And then tri is, and oxide is, Kelsey. S. No. So we got to go backwards now. We need to name it. So notice there's not a 1 there. There's no number there, so you assume 1. So you can write mono if you want. That won't hurt anything. But sometimes we usually drop the mono. So what is S?
Sulfur.
Do we change it to IDE? No, not the first name. The first name, just like in ionics, the first name is kept the same. 2 is
That's
di, and O is
oxide.
AS2O3. Savage. 2 is what? Savage? Die. Okay, AS is arsenic. 3 is O is, but it's the second element, so we, very good. Thank you, James. Any questions? Avery.
Oxygen, and then
Superb. Superb. Sandra.
it would be carbon, and then how is tetra?
So change it. All right, so let me help you with hydrogen. Maybe that's what Sandra's asking. Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I wasn't gonna ask that. I was gonna. So you always like do the numbers first.
Yes, the prefix first. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about hydrogen, because if you look on your periodic table, which of course your periodic table should be out, very good for those of you who finally get it, notice it's on the metal side. So using human relations and sociology, we can call hydrogen a trans element, in that hydrogen is actually a nonmetal. It is actually a nonmetal that identifies as a metal. So just like a trans woman is biologically a man that identifies as a woman, hydrogen is biologically a nonmetal that identifies as a metal. That's why sometimes you'll see it on the back side. Carbon tetrahydride. In that case, it's identifying as a female. Okay? If you see it up front, which you will next week when we talk about acids, then it's identifying as a metal, and you have to use different naming techniques. Okay? But you saw how easy this was. You saw how easy this was. I need you to practice a lot. So, number 1, I need you to go to Canvas and click on the Quizlet, the Quizlet and you will become a member of my class. Please, there's a Whitaker Quizlet group and there's a Marino Quizlet group. So click on today's assignment for Quizlet, and then go to join the Merino group. This is worth 5 points. All I want you to do is make flashcards that will hopefully help you remember the prefixes and what they mean. After you do that, you need to go ahead and do worksheet 5.1. After that, I want you to create a short little quiz for your side partner, your shoulder partner. So Kelsey, I want you to create, using 5.1, I want you to create a quiz where you have 5 chemical names and you expect Seth to do the chemical formulas, and 5 chemical formulas and you expect Seth to do that. And then give him the quiz. So a lot of times, in order to understand something, if you can create the quiz, that actually helps. All right? So, and there is an ed puzzle. So let's review. Quizlet, worksheet 5.1, practice quiz, ed puzzle. 4 things that you have to do over the next 30 minutes.